National security officials give a new report on threats from China, calling Beijing's latest moves hybrid tactics.
加大对我青年基层统战，锁定邀我青年参访红色景点。
Lawmakers in Taiwan are raising red flags after Chinese-made parts were found in one of the country's military drones.
会不会以后无人机飞上去，不管侦测到什么、看到什么，其实资料还没有回传台湾，都已经回传到对岸了呢？
TaiwanPlus asks what to make of U.S. President Donald Trump's business deals with Qatar. Plus, as AI advances, more single Chinese women turn to the digital world, not for dating apps, but for AI boyfriends. Good evening, welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Joyce. Taiwan's national security officials went to the legislature on Thursday to give details of new threats coming from China. The National Security Bureau has a new report on China's hybrid warfare campaign against the country, explaining how China is working more to infiltrate Taiwan's society. The Mainland Affairs Council has since elaborated on the report. Let's take a listen.
我们特别重视的就是那种借着各种理由，把学生拉到大陆去，然后落地招待，然后这个讲一些这个两岸必加统一。
Leslie Liao has been following the story for us and joins us from our Taipei newsroom. Leslie, what is this new report saying?
So, Joyce, what you heard the deputy minister say just now is a response to the national security report, which touched upon one of 5 points. That first point, he was talking about China targeting Taiwan's young people, in this case students, through cultural means and sponsored trips in an effort to cultivate a sense of unity between the two countries. This is a new form of societal infiltration, and this has been a trending problem, which can be seen through the rising number of spy cases involving China in Taiwan over the past 5 years. Now, that national security report also touched upon China's usual methods of suppressing Taiwan internationally and threatening it militarily. Now, these are things which are more run-of-the-mill for Beijing. China sends warplanes close to Taiwan on a near-daily basis. It conducts large-scale military drills in and around its waters. And China also blocks Taiwan's participation in international events, most recently the World Health Assembly. Now, the next point in the report talks about cognitive campaigns. China is sowing fear and uncertainty in Taiwan by spreading news that might make people a little on edge and make it hard to sleep at night. Now, we should mention that these are things that have been exacerbated, like Taiwan and China are on the brink of war, and that U.S. commitment to Taiwan is wavering. Now, the fifth and final point in that national security report concerns cybersecurity. The report says that China is using DDoS attacks and AI to weaponize the internet. The National Security Bureau has pointed out that Taiwan's health, manufacturing, and tech sectors are under increasing risk of Beijing-sanctioned ransomware attacks. Now, with these 5 new points in this report, national security officials are increasingly referring to China's hybrid tactics as a way to talk about these new pressure campaigns on Taiwan.
And Leslie, how is Taiwan responding to these increased threats from China?
Well, China claims Taiwan as part of its territory, and it hasn't ruled out bringing Taiwan under its control through force. And in recent years, Beijing has been ramping up its aggression to find new ways to forward its unified front agenda. So this is nothing particularly new. But this report comes at a time when President Lai Ching-te is thinking about how to counter China's infiltration into Taiwanese society. He wants to bring back military courts. He wants to limit exchanges between China and Taiwan. And he also wants to monitor Taiwanese officials traveling to China. This all comes at a time when President Lai has called Beijing a hostile foreign force. But with this new development and insight in this report about how China is targeting Taiwan's young people, well, the pressure is going to be on the government to find a way and think about how to counter it.
Thank you, Leslie. That was Leslie Liao reporting from our newsroom in Taipei. Now, lawmakers are sounding the alarm after Chinese components were found in a Taiwanese military drone. The defense minister says sensitive parts will no longer be sourced from China, but as John Van Trieste reports, it's not the first time Chinese tech has turned up where it should not.
The Albatross 2 drone is supposed to be a work of domestic Taiwanese engineering, but ahead of its mass production, there's a snag. It turns out some of its parts are made in China. China claims Taiwan, and it's Chinese forces these drones are built to repel. Yet inspectors only caught the Chinese parts at the last minute, when the military took delivery of early units. Now, concerned lawmakers are pressing the drone's maker over the potential security risks.
会不会以后无人机飞上去，不管侦测到什么、看到什么，其实资料还没有回传台湾，都已经回传到对岸了呢？
这两型无人机都还没有量产，是在试研制的阶段。然后我们在试研制阶段，这个东西是从国外进口的。那进口以后，我们在进口检验的时候，发现里面的确有它的 SD 卡是中国制的，那我们就要求原厂要能更换。
The defense minister too faced questions. When he pledged tighter controls once the drones go into mass production, lawmakers pressed for specifics.
哪一些是要飞后？就是这一个的标准是不是一致？
我们分成5类。我比如说举个例子，你可不可能桌子这个绝对不需要说会录制嘛？那有一些我想比较大家很清楚，就是具有传输功能的，那我们当然就确定一定是不能够用。
How reassured lawmakers may be is hard to gauge. The issue of Chinese-made equipment in sensitive places is not a new one for Taiwan. Last year, Taiwan People's Party lawmaker Huang Guochang broke the news that army bases were using Chinese devices. An audit found Chinese-made network routers, data readers, and power inverters. Rocket fuel powder and some electrical components in Taiwan-made missiles have also been traced to China in the past. But with China the world's largest exporter, getting the parts Taiwan needs without the risk Chinese parts could bring won't be easy. Eason Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. President Donald Trump has received another lavish welcome on the second stop of his Middle East tour in Qatar. There, the leader secured economic deals and renewed calls for a resolution to Iran's nuclear program. Rosie Greninger reports.
The red carpet is rolled out for Donald Trump in Qatar, the second leg of the US president's Middle East tour, focused on drumming up investments. And after a meeting with the country's emir, the two announced business deals between the United States and Qatar, totaling more than $243 billion US. Among them, the purchase of hundreds of Boeing jets.
Kelly's telling me from Boeing that's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets, that's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly, and congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there.
Set to be produced over the next 7 years, the White House said the deal would support over 150 jobs in the US each year. While the agreement between the two countries, including a mutual defense deal for advanced drone technology, will reportedly generate more than $1 trillion in extra business for the two nations. It comes as Trump faces backlash for accepting a $400 million jet from Qatar, described as a flying palace, to be used as Air Force One. Qatar's Prime Minister pushed back on the criticism, saying the jet is a routine government-to-government transaction, not a personal gift.
First of all, we bought this airplane from an American company. It's basically part of a cooperation that we've been doing a lot together between Qatar and the United States.
Trump has brushed off any questions about the jet, focusing instead on Iran. During a state dinner, Trump repeated his calls for a peaceful resolution to Iran's nuclear program, appealing to Qatar to help with the situation. Washington has held 4 negotiations to reach a deal over the project. Further talks are planned, but the US president said for a deal to be made, Iran must end its support for proxy groups.
You're also working with us very closely with respect to negotiating a deal with Iran, which is the far friendlier course that you would see. I mean, we have two courses. There's only two courses. There aren't 3 or 4 or 5. There's 2. There's a friendly and a non-friendly, and the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that. I'll say it up front, I don't want that, but they have to get moving.
Trump is pushing for agreement despite abandoning the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 during his first term in office. Responding to Trump, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said his country would not bow to any bully.
خیال کرده الان اومده اونجا شعار بده ما خواهیم ترسید و در مقابل وعده‌هاش کوتاه خواهیم اومد. ما عزت و سربلندی این مملکت رو با هیچ کی معامله نخواهیم کرد.
With that deal seemingly shut down, Trump is now turning his attention back to his Middle East tour. He will next meet with US troops at Qatar's Al Udeid airbase before jetting to his final destination, the UAE, where he will continue looking to make deals that he promised the American people. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Granger for TaiwanPlus.
For more about Trump's visit to the region, Adil Brar spoke to Jean-Loup Samaan, a research fellow at the National University of Singapore.
Donald Trump has said the U.S. will lift sanctions on Syria just before he met the new Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa. What's your reaction to President Trump's meeting with Sharaa?
I mean, first, I must say I was a bit surprised because there wasn't any specific signal in the past month that either Washington in general or this administration was interested in lifting the sanctions. But again, I think it tells us about how Trump likes to take everyone by surprise and doesn't feel he has to follow a specific pattern that is dictated by the foreign policy establishment. I think there was a lot of persuasion from the Gulf side, and in particular Saudi Arabia and Qatar, that made it clear for months that any reconstruction of Syria will require Gulf funding, Gulf investments.
Trump is now pushing for Iran to end its nuclear program. He pulled out of President Obama's Iran nuclear deal in his first term. What's Trump aiming for here?
Things have changed, I'd say, both in the Gulf and in Washington. The Gulf, we saw over the last years, even before Trump came back to the White House, restored ties with Iran. So there has been more diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia, the UAE on one side, and Iran on the other side. And now we see that Trump, especially with his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been very active pushing for a new deal.
What's the significance of Trump's visit to the Middle East?
The White House, before the trip started, emphasized a lot of things about arms sales, about trade deals, and this was the key element of the visits in Riyadh, in Doha. But in addition to that, we saw that there was also a diplomatic element with the decision of the Trump administration to lift sanctions against the Syrian regime, and for Trump to meet with the president, Ahmed al-Sharaa. I would say that we also can see that some topics have not been covered, and that is also telling. There wasn't much said about Gaza. There wasn't much said about the Houthis and Yemen. So we can see here clearly the priorities of Trump, who wanted to emphasize the trade aspects.
That was Jean-Loup Samaan from the National University of Singapore. Coming up after the break, we take a look at how TSMC's new technologies are redefining the semiconductor industry. Stay with us.
We bring you stories from Taiwan.
Every day of the week.
Our reporters travel the nation.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
News from here in Taiwan and around the world.
What's up, Taiwan? On TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Chinese military activity around Taiwan has continued throughout the week. The Defense Ministry says it spotted 29 Chinese military aircraft and 9 naval vessels operating near Taiwan in a 24-hour period up to Thursday morning. 18 of those aircraft entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. This area is not Taiwan's airspace, but acts as a buffer zone for defensive purposes. The military says it also spotted 2 official ships operating near Taiwan. The incursion comes as Taiwan's military holds annual exercises in the country's south. Several Taiwanese celebrities are being investigated for evading conscription. It comes after actor Darren Wong was arrested for dodging military service earlier this year. At least 8 entertainers are under investigation for forging medical records to get out of serving. 2 of them have been released on bail. In 2022, conscription for Taiwanese men was extended from 4 months to 1 year amid rising tensions with China. While many younger citizens would rather not do it, polls show that most Taiwanese see conscription as necessary for national defense. TSMC says it will start building its most advanced semiconductor fab yet by the end of the year. The factory in central Taiwan's Taichung County will produce chips more advanced than those made with the current 2-nanometer process by around 2028. The announcement comes as TSMC says they also plan to start building 8 other new factories this year, including 5 in the southern city of Kaohsiung. The announcement marks a significant increase in production capacity, with an average of 5 new factories built each year between 2021 and 2024. U.S. tech company Intel once led the chip industry, but TSMC's advancements and innovation paved the way for a new generation of cutting-edge semiconductors that have redefined technology. With industry veteran Lip-Bu Tan as Intel's new CEO, can the company pave a path forward that allows it to compete? Bob O'Donnell, the founder of Technalysis Research, sat down with TaiwanPlus to answer some of the most pressing questions about the future of semiconductors.
Intel was once the king of the chip world, but they now clearly lag behind their competitors like TSMC. Some are even saying that their most recent leadership change is their last chance to turn things around, that they're on their last legs. How did we get to this point?
What we've seen over the last several years, and frankly, the last decade, honestly, is this situation where TSMC slowly but surely caught up and then surpassed Intel in terms of their manufacturing capabilities and what have you. Plus, we saw the explosion of things like mobile phones and other devices that demanded chips, and Intel wasn't making chips for others at that time. And TSMC, of course, was making chips for people like Apple and Qualcomm, NVIDIA. And so you have a whole combination of factors. First, we saw Intel struggled with some of their process technologies around 10 nanometer or so. They really ran into some issues. And TSMC made more incremental gains and over time simply surpassed Intel and took advantage of the market situation whereby everybody wanted to take advantage of TSMC's advanced technologies. And the markets that required those chips just grew exponentially. And TSMC has gotten to the point where really they're kind of the only one that can do these advanced chips. I mean, 90+% of those really advanced nodes are being built by TSMC.
So all of this has led to a change of leadership at Intel, with their former CEO, Pat Gelsinger, being forced out last December, and new CEO, Lip-Bu Tan, taking over in March. So who is Lip-Bu Tan, and what does he bring to the table?
Well, Lip-Bu comes to the job with a really unique set of skills and capabilities. He's been in the semiconductor business for many decades in various roles. He's originally from Malaysia, grew up in Singapore, knows a lot of the Chinese chip companies as well as the TSMC and all the folks in Taiwan. And his last job was as the CEO of Cadence. Cadence makes what's called EDA software, electronic design automation. Basically, it's the software that companies use to design their own chips and then send those to the manufacturing facilities. So he understands the process of chip design. He understands the process of interacting with chip manufacturers. He's got these skill set. He's got connections all over the world, and he's willing to make some difficult decisions.
Turning now to the most demanding industry for chips, AI. There's a big debate about what the main bottleneck for that industry will be. Intel's new Gaudi 3 AI chip, for example, it's more about energy efficiency than raw compute power. There are only so many data centers you can build, after all, before you run out of electricity. So in the next 5 years or so, what do you think the main bottleneck is? Is it raw compute power or electric power?
I think 5 years out, it's definitely going to be electricity. Right now, it's still compute, and that's where the focus is. But, we're talking about these gigawatt data centers all over the U.S. We've already had situations in the U.S. where, certain states and places where people want to install these, they're saying no because they can't ensure that the power grid in that area can necessarily handle all the power demands that these data centers are going to create. And so that in turn falls back on the chips. I mean, again, as powerful as NVIDIA's chips are, and they are incredibly powerful, they're also unbelievably power hungry. Again, energy grids can't be turned on overnight. I mean, these things take a long time to install and to beef up. And so that's a very real world issue. So the notion of getting to more power efficient designs is critical.
When it comes to Intel, what's the government's role? Obviously, the U.S. has the CHIPS Act, which is giving billions of U.S. dollars to both Intel and TSMC. Is that enough? Does Intel, with market power alone, stand a chance of catching up to or surpassing TSMC?
Intel has gotten to where they are, which is fairly competitive on a technology basis, without a single dollar of the CHIPS Act. They have yet to receive, or if they did receive, they just got some of the CHIPS Act money. Most of it they haven't gotten at all. The issue is moving forward. So I think technologically they've been able to catch up. The question will be, will those additional funds help them to build out the factories they need and do the other things they're going to want to be able to do? And sure, that's going to help.
Well, one place that is getting a lot of government support is China. They have a long-term strategy to become self-sufficient in AI hardware, in part due to U.S. export controls. They say they want to leapfrog Taiwan and the U.S. technologically. Is this a realistic goal?
Honestly, probably not. I think there's so many challenges for China to try and overcome them. The big technology change that we are in the midst of, that both Intel and TSMC are embracing, is EUV, or extreme ultraviolet lithography. That's the ability to write super small lines on each of these silicon chips. And EUV machines are made by ASML out of the Netherlands. And of course, they are also being prevented from shipping some of those advanced machines to China. So without that, China has to resort to technologies that, frankly, were at the heart of Intel's problems. They tried to do double patterning using older technologies to get these finer lines. And that proved to be extremely difficult.
You can watch the full interview with Bob O'Donnell on Zoom In, Zoom Out, available on YouTube or the TaiwanPlus website. With advancing technology, human-AI interactions are increasing. Now virtual partners are capturing more and more people's hearts. An event in Beijing brought together fans and players of the dating simulator game Love and Deep Space. Miriam Brunner tells us more.
Making a love connection over their mobile phones. But instead of dating apps, these women in Beijing are players of Love and Deep Space, a 3D game that uses generative AI. It allows players as customizable avatars to immerse themselves in relationships with virtual characters.
它满足了我们对于恋爱的幻想，而恋爱本身最大的用处不就是提供情绪价值吗？那既然这个游戏它可以提供的是更多的情绪价值，且不会需要再去安抚去让自己说有些负面的情绪，对方带给自己的负面情绪，而都是这样积极的情绪，其实它是一个很有意义的一个关系。
Primarily aimed at a female audience, the game was developed by a company in Shanghai. It's part dating simulator and part action combat, with the AI characters making phone calls and sending personalized texts to the users. College student Liu Yuxuan is one of the game's 6 million active players, and she's in a relationship with Raphael, one of the game's 5 main characters.
对我来讲还是比较重要的，因为可能每个人都会有一些秘密嘛，有一些秘密你可能没有办法对别人去倾诉，你这个时候你打开游戏，你可以向他去倾诉，这样的话也是一个情绪陪伴的价值。
Raphael is so popular that hundreds of his fans came together to celebrate his birthday at a Beijing mall. Yin Shunshun, tech lead at the China-based Soul app, who also uses generative AI, explains the popularity of AI chatbot companions.
有9.1%的年轻人，他们会把 AI 社交，或者说会把虚拟人当成他们孤独的时候一个能提供他情绪价值、能终结他孤独一个重要的一个选项。
But like any relationship, this virtual connection also comes with a price. Aside from self-organized events and merchandise, players also have to pay if they want to access more storylines and advance the emotional connection they have to their digital partner.
即使说他创造出来就是为了爱我，我可以毫无保留地向他表示自己，他也会毫无保留地向我展示他的爱。
In the 15 months since it was launched, the game has made the equivalent of some $500 million, with 40% from markets outside of China. Quite a milestone for a pastime that builds bonds by blurring the line between the virtual and real worlds. Chris Ma and Miriam Brenner for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Be sure to visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow us on social media. Finally, today we give you a glimpse into Rotterdam's new museum, which focuses on the story of human migration. I'm Joyce. Take care. See you next time.